Hi guys, good evening. Welcome back once again to the EdWord. I'm your host Eddie, and in tonight's video, I'll be discussing what I thought of the latest and another solid episode we got in the form of It, Welcome to Derry. It wasn't exactly super scary, though there were some spooky moments, but it was more of a very revealing episode with interesting character backstory and explaining a few things and filling in the gaps here and there. Now, before I get into all of that, of course, please be warned, this is a spoiler-filled review, so if you're not caught up on It, Welcome to Derry by the latest episode, which is episode 3 of season 1, you don't want to keep watching or listening to this review, as I will be going into spoilers, plot details, character stuff, all that jazz. That being said, you have been warned. Let's dive right back into it. First and foremost, I'm so glad we got to see Dick Halloran use his shine, his powers to help try to track Pennywise, which technically worked because he found his main lair where the floating corpses of his previous victims all float around, as we saw from the films, you know, with the whole You'll Float Too. Got a pretty good glimpse, a decent glimpse of him with his yellow eyes, and then that fuzzy photograph where they could clearly tell it's a clown that they caught in the photo. And I think it was interesting to see how Dick has come face to face with someone else or something else that has a similar ability like he does, but something even more powerful and deadlier with far more sinister intent than Dick Halloran has. So it makes me wonder, is he a good opponent, a worthy opponent for Pennywise? Like, could they duel off with each other shining-wise? We'll have to keep watching to find out. But I thought it was very interesting how rattled and unnerved Dick became when he saw or noticed Pennywise, because he even says to the general, I don't think we were supposed to see it, not in that form. But he did because of his ability. I also was a bit confused at first, until it became crystal clear, with the whole 1908 flashback. So my first thought is like, well, who the hell is this kid? And then when the scene initially ended, I thought, oh, well, Pennywise bit him and then killed him and ate him. So it was just some kid dying from a flashback in 1908. But then we had that interesting, in my opinion, very cool reveal that the young indigenous girl turned out to be the older indigenous woman we've seen in the trailers and promos for this show, as she clearly has an important part to play in the future of this season. And then we also realized that that young boy is our older general running the airbase, and they were friends and perhaps childhood crushes at one time. And clearly both of them know what's really going on in Derry in terms of Pennywise being there, because they've both seen and encountered it. It appears that the woman, Rose, when she was a girl, knew that Pennywise had his limits, or could only go as far as he could beyond Derry, and maybe those woods were the barrier just beyond Derry, where he couldn't safely leave or exit the forest for whatever reason. Perhaps that reason will be explored or revealed to us in this show. I don't know. I liked the reveal that these two were the two kids in 1908. I thought that was pretty cool, and how they've known each other for that long, for almost 50 years. And they still seem to care about each other to some extent, even though her and her people sent that cease and desist letter. It's cool that the indigenous people, who were only briefly introduced in It Chapter 2, have a bigger role to play in the TV show, and perhaps we get to explore and see a bit more of their history with this creature, as their people were here first in Derry, Maine, long before Derry was an established town, and maybe they know some things about fighting off Pennywise that they can pass down to the kids or so. Speaking of the kids, they had an interesting sequence where they were unwisely trying to summon Pennywise, or It, via Santa Maria ritual that the kid Richie thought of, or was partially making up and was partially probably telling the truth. But of course it semi-worked, not because the ritual actually worked, but because Pennywise, appears whenever he wants to, especially when he's hungry and he feels like eating or terrorizing children. So of course he did appear in the form of multiple scary ghosts, and then did briefly appear in his clown form that we saw later in the photo they developed. Now, will this help the poor theater owner who's wrongfully imprisoned for those child murders in his movie theater? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, even if the photos do show something, the adults could easily dismiss them as something else, and they'll say, no, we have our man, case closed. So we'll have to keep watching to find out. But this episode was an excellent, I wouldn't say a filler episode, but it provided a lot of information for us and answered a few questions we had about the 1908 flashback, you know, what the kids are up to, how they're dealing with Pennywise, and how the adults are dealing with Pennywise. So it's interesting to see how we've got two distinct groups of characters dealing with the same problem simultaneously yet separately, with the adults in one camp and the kids in the other. Will their paths converge, perhaps, and will they unite to take on Pennywise once and for all? We'll have to keep watching to find out. Yeah, so I liked the stuff with Dick Halloran. I liked the reveal with the General and Rose. And I like the stuff with the kids in the cemetery. I was a little scared there that we were going to lose one, if not a few of them, but we didn't, not yet. I mean, after the series premiere, you can't really blame me for being nervous for the kids now. So, no, but this was a solid episode. It was great. And I like how they keep teasing and getting us ever that much closer to a full, decent look at Bill Skarsgård decked out in Pennywise attire once again. It's only a matter of time. So thank you for watching this episode review. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. What did you think of it? I'd love to hear your thoughts and feelings on it. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your night and weekend. It's Welcome to Derry drops new episodes every Sunday night on HBO Max. Have a good rest of your night, everyone. Thanks for watching. And of course, until next time, what's your favorite scary movie?